Okay, hello everyone. I'm back this week with one of our most frequent guests on the podcast. OMG, it's Daddy. Introduce yourself or say hi.
Yeah, I'm a man that needs no introduction, okay? I forgot all about this game until I just saw the the screenshot of it here, and I missed this rain team that I had so much. I love this team.
Yeah, I don't remember what happens in this set either. I
I
I
don't
mean, I'd
either.
probably lose just because it's this season. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. This team was
So
crazy.
you see it, the viewers see it. Now I will play. We do see a Scraggy, which I'm very excited about because Scraggy's the goat.
That's your
Uh,
favorite Pokemon of all time, isn't it?
No, Ninetales would be my favorite Pokemon.
Yeah, okay. Your favorite draft Pokemon, though.
Um, no,
Okay, how do you
it's
beat
probably
this lead?
ridiculous. Let's see. Surely I prepared for this. Maybe I didn't. Oh, the helping hand definitely. I feel like I remember this. That I calced to live, but didn't calc to live helping hand. I actually vaguely remember that now that I've seen it. Oh, and everything's dead. Everything just dies to death.
Politoed is just so good. Not Kingdra, Politoed.
Yeah. This is what happened last week too. Where everything just died because my team, if you remember from the draft episode that we did, I had Feeney before and I was
Yes.
undefeated with Feeney. The week before this was my last week, or sorry, was my first week with Coco, and it went the same where just like everything died and then Delmise maxed and like kind of did stuff, but it was just way too little, too late. And
Yeah, Delmise was pretty good in this format, but like
it's
Kingdra is
just
just so explosive, and then
What's
Perish
also
Song at the
this
end.
team is just terrible. Like Delmise would be
Yeah.
good. It's just this everything died in one shot.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a quick game one.
This
Do
is
you have
a time well before I did calcs too, so
yeah.
I don't know when Helping Hand was and was not necessary there. I would just click moves back then.
Well, I'm feeling pretty bad here, losing at least a game one to the worst coach in the league, as we know. Let's
Yeah,
see what
yeah,
happens game
true.
two.
I mean, I looked pretty bad in that one, right?
Yeah, I would agree. Oh, same lead. Let's see. How do I switch it up?
We
Very
both
excited.
run it back. Does it
Oh,
go
wait,
the
wait, wait.
same
Let me
way?
pause. Let me pause. I think I feel like I remember that I was like, oh, I'll do this because I expect him to change up like this or whatever.
Hmm.
Like reading a very specific play from you, and then it went just totally wrong. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it feels like one of those things where I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm not gonna do the same thing as last time because
Yeah.
Sam probably is ready for the same thing. So maybe I'm hitting Coco here, or maybe I'm mind gaming the mind game and I do the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember what my plan was. Maybe I like max Coco and guard and try to tailwind or something like that, but it goes terribly wrong. Um, yeah, well, it's like a guessing game here, but like so usually like if you're leading for a guessing game, um like sometimes it can be 50-50 win lose. Sometimes it can
Mhm.
be like 25 win, 25 lose, 50 play on. Whatever play I make here, it's like 75% lose, 25% play on.
Yeah.
That's the
Coco
balance.
didn't get any really strong fairy moves, right?
Nope, it got special fairy moves and its fairy moves are uh sorry, its special attack is bad.
Right.
Um Yeah, so okay, yes. So you've read it. I was like, I'll max this time. I'll switch in on the water hit. I don't even know what Silvally does. Your parting shot, maybe? Oh, no, it just dies. Everything dies, actually. Yeah, everything's dead.
Yeah, helping hand next to Kingdra is looking pretty solid here.
But yeah,
Hmm.
so you called your mix up right. Completely right. Oh, I think I know what it was. I think I was like, okay, so he can mix it up, but he's not going to not target Driftblim because I can just set Tailwind, and I misplayed so hard. Ha ha, a little.
Yeah, that was there's not a lot to say about that one. Just
Yeah,
set rain and click moves, I guess. Which is what I wanted to do with this team,
yeah.
like
Um, Yeah, that was a brutal. That was one of the most lopsided matches of the first two seasons for me. Period. Like that was really grim.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if this match happened in
I would
2023, a
set
lot of
Trick
things
Room.
probably go different.
Yeah, I would just set Trick Room. I don't understand. This happened last week too. Why I don't understand why I'm not just setting Trick Room with Ravenclaw and sweeping with Delmise. Because Delmise is like doing as the third Mon, it's doing like pretty good stuff with its max, but just like
Hmm.
everything else is already dead, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to set Trick Room in like in the max format, and then with the
I
amount of
guess, yeah.
offense that I was outputting, you know what I mean? It'd be
Yeah.
like it wouldn't be as easy as okay, click Trick Room and I win, right? Because
Well,
I
I could
might
be
just die anyway.
yeah, I could be a scumbag and go for just ally switch Drift Bloom. Be fun.
True, yeah. Everything had ally switch last gen.
Yeah. I mean, this is another example of like Coco's just like not that good. Like it should be a Coco week. It was the Rain team. It was the Rain team and the like like I don't know how to explain it. Cartana, the like typing counterbalance mon, Rain mon. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like the grass type in your Rain mode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
To nullify that weakness a little bit.
yeah, ideally or like doesn't even really match up well with Coco. Well, I guess it depends if I was physical or special, but because it's so frail, like it doesn't match up that well, and
Yeah.
because of the electric, Coco isn't steel weak. Um, yeah. So, well, I guess both of the stabs are resisted actually, so it does match up well. I'm that ignore what I just said. Um, but yeah,
Cartana just hits so hard though. Like, what is it, 180
yeah,
attack or something?
yeah.
So,
But the issue here is that Coco is well, it's twofold actually. One, Coco is not good. If I had Feeny in this matchup, ooh, it would have been so much better. Ooh, Kingdra would
I
have
mean,
been walled.
Feeney is certainly not dying in one shot, right? I mean,
No,
we
it's
could say that.
walling that Kingdra.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's
hard.
setting up calm minds. It's like, oh, you want a helping hand? That's cute. I'm gonna keep setting up calm minds.
But what was kind of nice about Polytoad specifically is I could kill everything else and then just perish zone.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Polytoad for this season for me, and I think I went like 9-1 or whatever. I don't know how many
Hmm.
games we played this season. But Polytoad was definitely the MVP.
Yeah,
It just
and I
did
mean,
so much supportively, and then like Scalds and Hydro Pumps in the rain are doing a lot of damage themselves.
yeah, and I think it's dishonest to just be like, oh, Feeny is so much better into what happened because you did have Cartana, and
Hmm.
Cartana like you know physical grass moves could definitely do a number on Feeny. Um,
Right.
yeah, so I don't know if I would have won this match if I had Feeny because your team was really good. Um, however, however, um, there's this issue with Coco on the team instead of Feeny where everything dies, and on top of everything dying, I also don't actually pressure that much because
Hmm.
Coco isn't that strong. Like its attack is like 115 or whatever. And I spent an entire like hour talking about Coco last time, so I should probably stop
Yeah.
soon. There's a
Do you
115
think
attack.
it'll
What?
probably be good in this format though?
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's so poorly suited for Max because it's a choice abuser.
Hmm.
Well, so like there are two things. Well, so I think it's best set probably in Max too, which I didn't understand at the time. Like I thought it was supposed to be my Max mon, and that sort of pushed me to run physical sets. I think its
Hmm.
best set is taking advantage of the electric terrain boost and using its otherwise middling 95 special attack to just choice scarf mainly electrowebs, but also volt switch.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't even need scarf all the time since you're 130 speed. If you don't need scarf, then you specs. Either way, I think that's probably its best set in or out of max. Um,
Like a budget Alecki that sets terrain kind of.
yeah, well, it's With the transistor nerf, it's stronger than Aleki actually, is Aleki is sorry, the transistor boost is 1.3 now, and the surge boost is oh wait, it might also be 1.3 actually.
Yeah, I think it's the same, right?
Okay, yeah, it's the same. So they're like approximately as strong. Coco is slower, but
Hmm.
Coco with physical moves is stronger, because 115. And then also as far as dual typing goes, like so normally I would like there are a lot of dual types you could have with electric where I'd rather just have electric, pure electric, because it's a very, it has few weaknesses, strong type. Um, but electric fairy is actually really good.
Yeah, what is it? Ground and poison are the only
It's ground and
weaknesses, right?
poison, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
And
which aren't
poison's like not a
bad
good
ones.
offensive type, so it's really just ground.
I
Yeah,
think
fairy.
Coco is going to be really good because it's going to give those mons like Valiant and
Oh yeah,
Treads, and you know
yeah, I
what I
think it'll be
mean?
good.
Like right now, Pincurchin is your option, and that is not a very good Pokemon at all.
Yeah. Volt switching out, well, giving your treads a boost and then volt switching out, is definitely an interesting proposition.
Yeah, I think I think those mons like are already so good. Like Valiant
Yeah.
with the ability to run Focus Sash and get the
Yeah,
electric terrain set
the
up
two of
is going
them,
to make it so much better.
there might be too much overlap between them where they're like both kind of combo attack supports. They're both frail, they're both fairy types. There might be a little too much overlap for those to work well together.
Hmm.
Um, and they just get totally destroyed by poison types as a
Yeah, you'd
combo.
have to have like a hyper offense team with a really good steel type on it too.
Yeah, I just don't think Coco even adds that much. Aside from like boosting Valiant, I think like Coco the Mon doesn't actually do very much that Valiant can't. Like I guess
That's
Electro
true.
Webs. What is Valiant's best speed control?
Icy Wind.
Oh, so it doesn't even. I mean, the Electro Webs are stronger than the Icy Wind. Um, but it's adding very little, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was not a good Pokemon in the context that I was using it, and Feeny was a good Pokemon in the context I was using it, and that continues to be bad for my team. That's the sort of like long-term outlook on the season. So we already looked at your team a little bit. Um, we already looked at your team a little bit during the draft episode, but do you recall where you were? So this is week 4. Do you recall like what was going on in your season at this point?
Um, I, like I said, I only lost one or two games all
Hmm.
season, so it was like I was off to a really good start. I
Hmm.
know I switched like Rillaboom for Zapdos, and
Yeah.
um, I can't I can't remember what else. Obviously I got rid of Jolteon to take something, but like I feel like that just made the team better, so I was feeling really confident with it. I mean,
Hmm.
what we just saw was basically like that was my game plan for the season, just like set rain, eliminate everything with Cartana and or Kingdra, and then
Hmm.
like set Paris Song when I need it. Um, I feel like Sent to Scorch was like pretty decent mod to have. It
Yeah,
was I
it
feel like it
was
was kind of underrated. What was it, tier 4 or tier 3 at the time?
probably
So
tier 3.
yeah,
But
so
yeah,
I was
solid
feeling
mon.
confident. I just I wanted to make that change because I felt like Rillaboom didn't do enough on my team.
Hmm.
Obviously a really good mod, and Fake Out's nice. It's a little less nice in Dynamax.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I was feeling real good about this season at this
I
point.
th I think kind of side note, but I think it's gonna be really fun in Gen 9 Rillaboom. Like I think it's gonna be um not even a challenge because it's still very well. It's easy to use Rillaboom in a very different way. Like it was easy to
Hmm.
use Rillaboom in the past because you just click Grassy Glide and just like
Right.
laugh. Um, Now it's easy to use Rillaboom just because it has like everything you want, and you since there's no like a lot of the tools that it has, you kind of neglected just because Grassy Glide better. Um,
Hmm.
and so it was like a fake out Grassy Glide bot. Obviously still has fake out. Um, and then just like a bunch of coverage, like so much coverage. And then as far as utility, like knockoff, taunt. I would kind of, given the Pokemon that Rillaboom is, I would consider U-turn utility for it specifically because it's a really good defensive switch in, and a very good like fake out pivot. So that's a huge move for it. Snarl, like just a lot of good stuff to disrupt and or damage opponents.
Yeah, something like Rillaboom and Heatran, if somebody can manage to get both of those,
Yeah,
would be really
Rillaboom,
powerful.
Heatran, Driftblim. You heard it here first.
Ooh, yeah, that's what we gotta look out for in the draft, huh? That's a lot of points, though.
It's not that many points.
What's Rillaboom plus Heatran?
It's
That's
like
got to be
18.
like close to 40, right?
It's 38, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot, and maybe I shouldn't ask this in the podcast, but how many points are we doing? Is it 120?
I think we're sticking at 115. It seems like.
115.
Oh
Okay.
wait, do we do? Oh wait. Oh
I don't
wait.
remember if it's
Cut that. Cut
115
that.
or
Cut that. Cut
120.
that. What did we do in the mock? We did 120 in the mock. I think we're doing 120 then. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Maybe we'll like talk about it and poll it one more time and see.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure we
I
will,
think
but I would imagine we'll do 120.
yeah, because like those mons that cost 25, that's a big chunk of your budget. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
they are
I
really
think
good
I
though.
like the way we did it though, and then moving the other stuff down the list is sort of I think it's because I was
We'll
looking at
see.
the
Yeah.
playoff teams this season, and they were all pretty top heavy, like very top heavy.
Electric did really well throughout the season with I probably the widest team drafted.
Yeah,
So there
I would
is
agree
like
with that.
I think if you get the wide draft right, I think it was still really strong last season, but I think it was just harder to actually do it. Um, and it's just sort of this sort of helps people do that, and I think specifically dropping the low tiers is nice because like we know people are going to draft like so much of the board is 14 and above,
Yeah,
and a lot of Numons like your Sneaslers, Moltres, Galars, Arcanine, Hisui's. I'm just looking at the list. So a bunch of Numons in that territory, a bunch of new Ishmons in that territory, like Sandy Shocks, Iron Treads, even like Armarouge is new-ish. So there's still a lot of high tiers that maybe people haven't gotten to try yet that are up there as well. And then also just like long time classic strong Pokemon like Garchomp, Arcanine. People are going to take these Pokemon. They're going to take multiple
yeah,
of these Pokemon because that's how many good, really good Pokemon there are.
yeah.
So, having, I don't know, what's something that's like decent in 3 point tier. All right, those are kind of what were in that range before, but like, um, I don't know if you can get a Hatchram at the end of the draft on a otherwise top heavy team instead of maybe last season that would have been a I don't know what's something that's similar to Hatchram but in 2 points. Nothing.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
yeah, I think like the eight through like 4 pointers are much
yeah,
more enticing.
that's easier to look at too. So like I don't know, in a place where you might have had uh damn whatever at the end of the roster, so people are going to be drafting these higher tiers anyway. At the end of the roster, instead of getting like a 3 point terrible Pokemon, they can get Hatchram and bring it maybe once or twice. Um, Obviously that like accelerates the um, increasing power level of teams, which I think uh, certainly like is part of the worry that like because people are drafting so top heavy, the power levels are also going up. But at the same time, it allows more teams to be wide, just because
Hmm.
it sort of has to be done artificially because there's so few mons in these. Like usually, a massive number of mons are in these tiers, like especially like 5 through 2. Well, 2 is actually pretty big. Like 3 through 5 is usually huge. They're all tiny now. And yes, that's
Yeah.
partly because of how we've tiered, but there are also just like not as many low mid tier, mid low tier type Pokemon, because the dex, especially now, has like a decent number of legendaries. All of the um, what are they called? Paradoxes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, new Pokemon that are you know in designed to be Gen 9 Pokemon that perform well in Gen 9 tournaments. Um, a lot of good Pokemon, and we're still waiting for DLCs to flesh out, um, the Hitmonchans of the world. We don't have that yet, so sort of making it easier to
Yeah.
draft those Pokemon. That was a really long way
Yeah.
of saying that.
I see like with the new revised tier list why people might want to take, one of those maybe like 19 or 18 pointers over like a 25
Hmm.
pointer. So that
Yeah,
way at the end of the draft you can get a Glaceon instead of a Cubchoo.
yeah.
It's a little more incentivized for that. But I worry a little bit about I think Tornadus and the Urshifus are too good. I think they might. I think
I
they're.
mean,
I
they're
think they're just
25.
too good. I know
I
that's a
don't
lot.
think
I
Tornadus is
know it's a
too good.
lot.
I think
I think
Tornadus is
Tornadus
better
is
on the
too
ladder than
good.
it is on in draft. But I think 25 is
Why?
fair. But why?
Yeah.
Because in ladder there's not when there's a Tornadus, there's not really a reason to like have like Torn T on ladder has basically zero value because
Yeah.
everybody has Tornadus incarnate.
Yeah.
In draft, a lot of times Tornadus T is going to be like enough for what you need.
That's true.
Uh, so yes, it's not nearly as good, but and that's just one part of what Tornadus incarnate does is set Tailwind, but there are going to be some weeks where the 13-point Tornadus Therian is doing basically what you would want the 25-point Tornadus incarnate to do.
That's true, but I
It
guess the value I see in 25-point Tornadus is that it can set all the weathers. It can
Yeah,
set Tailwind. With Covert Cloak, it does all these things for free, and it can
yeah.
also run Defiant, right?
No, I
Some
mean
weeks.
I'm that's like obviously what I said was like obviously pretty reductionist about what
Hmm.
Tornadus is capable of, but I'm just saying like the mid-tier Tailwind setters are a lot more feasibly used in draft than they are in on the ladder. So like Tornadus isn't nearly as important, but it's obviously still really good. Like um, even with like Roaring Moon crazy fast, I struggled against like Fluttermane because it's faster and also had booster energy. Iron
Hmm.
Bundle also faster and had booster energy. So um, just being able to like hop over all of these fast Pokemon. Like I'm looking at the top tiers right now: Fluttermane, Shenpao, Iron Bundle, and Nemorous isn't that fast. Roaring Moon. You can hop over all of these with, um, I would say relative ease, but Fluttermane and Iron Bundle are so fast that it's not sometimes still hard to jump over them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's still obviously good for that. And then it does a lot of stuff. Like as I think like Prankster Tailwind is slightly less valuable in draft than ladder, um, or slightly less important, I guess. But the other Prankster tools are probably better, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like I don't know if Taunt is better or worse, because Taunt is really good on ladder for like Lilligant stuff, Amoonguss stuff. Um, Prankster Taunt's really good in both, but it covers for a lot, so it's something that's very valuable to have in draft because
Yeah, it
you
has a
want to cover for more.
pretty solid prankster move pool that's adaptable based on what your
Yeah,
opponent's bringing, right? Like you slap a weather on there either for your own team or like to counter a sun team.
yeah,
So I see a lot of the value in it there, and then it has decent offenses too, and
yeah. I
it's
mean,
not
yeah,
extremely
125
bulky, but
125 special attack is really good.
right.
Like
And like it's not
there's no
super
debating that.
bulky, but like it also it doesn't require EVL8 like
Yeah.
Murkrow would, right?
Well, it's also like
So
it's another. It's actually a very interesting thing to consider. Like, is this better or worse on ladder than in draft? Because like this bulk does not do you any good on ladder most of the time.
right.
Well, that's not even necessarily true. Like
It might live a hit,
yeah,
right?
I run cloak on it on ladder, and it's actually like it lives like it lives chip very very well.
Yeah. Like
Um,
spread moves and stuff.
yeah, but like I would have to like look at calcs, but I'm sure Terra boosted Flutter Mane Moonblast. I'm sure probably just Okos it unless you're invested. Like
Hmm.
on ladder, you're routinely seeing stronger moves, so its bulk isn't going to get it done as much of the time. Uh, but you know what's coming in draft. You know what super effective moves can be brought. Like you can uh, get a lot more run out of this bulk. Like 80, it's basically 80, 70, 80, which is not good, but you can work with it for sure.
Yeah. And then the Urshifu's like I I don't know. After
I
I
kind of
said it, I was kind of like maybe Urshifu's not as good in draft
I
because you know it's there, right?
uh yeah, that's probably true because you know it's there. Um, I think Wicked. I mean not Wicked. Single Strike. I think I mentioned this and got shut down, so I'm not gonna like pull it again. I wouldn't touch Urshifu single in 25 personally. Um,
Mhm.
the Wicked Blow nerf was, um, it doesn't stop this Pokemon from being ridiculous, but it is a, legitimate nerf. Um, and I think it's now I think it's probably pretty significantly worse than um, Rapid Strike, um, because Surging Strikes is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, and Water type is better. You don't have four times weakness to Fairy, and even though Sucker Punch is stronger, for Urshifu in particular, I would rather have Aqua Jet because you have the ability to go through Protect. Sucker Punch actually can't go through Protect because it would fail. So
Right.
having priority that also breaks Protect is just like stupid. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah, it
my.
fits really nicely on rain teams too.
Oh yeah, getting the ability to boost it with pretty passively is ridiculous. It's a very
Yeah.
stupid Pokemon.
Yeah, I guess I mean you get it with like Pelipper or something is
Yeah,
really nice, but if you get it with like a prankster or
yeah.
weather
If you get it,
setter, you
Tornadus. We were just talking about it.
that's an
If you want to
unbelievable
go,
amount of points,
if
right?
you want to go 50 points in a pair, could do worse.
Yeah, I that's I mean that's like what like
It's 50.
45% of your
Oh,
points. So
it's a good
uh
chunk. It's a good chunk.
yeah. So I guess I guess what I'm saying about that is I like that aspect of the tier list. Like if you really want to get two or three of those super high tier
Yeah,
Pokemon, like say goodbye to the rest of your points, right? And there's a lot of good stuff in the like
yeah,
16 to 8 range even.
yeah. I mean, I think after this season, I think it's gonna condense down from 25. Frankly, um, I think it might land in 22 or 23 next season, but I'm fine to have it this wide for this season. If does that sort of make sense or no?
Yeah, I think it does.
Like,
I feel like we had to do something like this, like something I don't know, sort of
yeah,
like drastic because I don't know, like I didn't look into it too seriously, but Electric was basically the only team that I saw in the playoffs that wasn't like I would even say like extremely top heavy.
yeah.
And I know that some people might disagree with me, but like when I look
No,
at
I
these
mean I kind of
rosters,
agree.
like I'm like, damn, these like there's not most of these teams are bringing 6 to 8 maybe 9 Pokemon,
Yeah.
and
No,
then
and
that's it.
I think doing both ends of like raising the top and lowering the bottom is smart because it makes the decision to go for like a Hydreigon or Golden Go in 19 versus
Hmm.
a Flutter Mane in 24, it makes that a more serious decision than if they were a point or two apart.
Yeah.
Um, because on the one hand, they're further apart than they might otherwise be if we didn't stretch the tiers upward. And then also at the back end, your 4 points actually matter.
Yeah.
If you save 4 points, that's the difference between like Electrode or Honchkrow and a Bagmon. Like that's
Yeah. It's a big
serious.
difference, right?
Yeah.
And even something like Brux, how do you say it? Bruxish?
Bruxish.
Bruxish. Yeah, there we go. I did it right.
That
Something like that for 6 points instead of 9. Like at 9, you're like,
that may have
it's
been 6 already, actually. No, it was 7.
really?
No, it was 7. You were right.
I thought it was even more than that. I don't
No,
know.
it was
Because like
it was
six feels like it might be a little low for it because it has a lot of upside, but
yeah.
for like 8 or 9 points, I'm probably never even considering it. Like
Yeah, and I mean,
I'm just gonna spend my points on the top tiers because.
yeah, and I think like Bruxish was already probably the most attractive thing to me in 7 last season or close to it.
Hmm.
So of course it's toward the top of 6 for me now. Um, so same thing with Ampharos was at the top of 6 for me. I drafted it. So now it's at the top of 5 again. But like even I don't know, random Mons in 5 or the like value there versus a 1 pointer is still really
Big difference, yeah.
yeah, it's actually worth saving points because I remember last season I very quickly got into what I thought would be like points trouble, and then I was looking later in the draft and I was like, wow, there's no reason to save points for a 4 pointer here or a 3 pointer here. I can just get Bagmons, like it doesn't matter.
And they're not that much worse, right? Like I took
Yeah,
like Drowsy late in the draft because like yeah, maybe it's not quite as good as, the psychic type maybe like Hypno or something in
yeah,
5. Like yeah, okay, it's not quite as good as Hypno, but it's 4 points cheaper and
yeah,
that means I can get Corviknight instead of, whatever.
yeah. And
Um,
I do think it's tough still because it's just like I keep going to the fake out example just because it's very
mhm.
easy for me. Like, yeah, we got Thwacky back, but Thwacky is not super exciting anymore. Like, it's a decent Pokemon that can do stuff, but it's not exciting by any means. But we need these like Hitmonchan type Pokemon back.
Mhm.
Um, just because it's so you get to a point in the draft and it's like the it becomes unfun because it's like what else can I add of value to my team? Like good low tier Pokemon aren't Pokemon that are good. Or the way that I draft them isn't typically like I'm gonna draft something that like actually has decent stats and is like okay in a lot of areas. It's like this
Mhm.
Pokemon is bad, but it adds this one wrinkle to my team.
Niche. Yeah,
Yeah,
this one little niche thing that either I might bring one week or like it fills like a really glaring hole. Like
yeah,
maybe I have a really bad Trick Room matchup and I need something that can imprison Trick Room or
yeah,
whatever late.
and
And I only need it that one time against like foreign or whatever,
yeah,
foreign
and
style team, right?
it's so hard to do that when there are so few Pokemon in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like especially populating the low and mid tiers because like I think I was looking at Tinkatink last season. It's just like of course Tinkatink went very or wait is that the what's the middle one Tinkatuff? Oh, he's gone. Uh-oh. Well, I'm going solo. Let me just type to him. Oh, he's back.
All
Um
right, sorry about you were talking about Tika Tink.
yeah, no, I think Tinkatink is the baby. I was talking about Tinkatuff. So I was looking at
Okay.
Tinkatuff last season, and um, you know, of course it got drafted. Of course it got like quote unquote sniped from me because it's a steel type and it has fake out. Like there are just so few Pokemon like, oh, I missed out on a steel type earlier. I might just want to have one. Like
Mm-hmm.
those go so quickly. Oh, I missed out on a fake out. Um, Let me get one that I can actually bring. Those go quickly too. And um, having things like I see Krogunk is in 2 points now. Like Krogunk is not a terrible Pokemon, by any means, but um, you know, it's not super exciting to have to pay 3 points for a Krogunk. You would rather just
Right.
like, I don't know, like you said, make something that's like okay into a Corviknight. Um,
Yeah. I've found that a lot of people use their like last pick or two just to clean up their type chart, which I
yeah,
don't think is the play.
no,
Because what happens is, you know, not to like point fingers at anybody specifically, but if you throw like an Igglybuff on your team, right? It cleans up
yeah,
your type
fuck
chart
Igglybuff.
nicely because of
Daddy
that
says
normal
fuck
fairy, right?
Igglybuff. Yeah.
Well, but you're never using it, and your opponent knows that, and they're just taking it off of the prep doc anyway.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
it's not actually cleaning up your type chart. I think, it's nice to have a little tiny bit of value in the 2 point range where,
Yeah.
maybe you get Ice Cube, and maybe it makes your type chart worse, but you might actually be able to do one thing with it for the
Oh,
season,
is
right? Whereas
IceQ in
like,
2? I might put that up to 3. IceQ
I
is
think
actually
that
pretty
might,
good.
I think that fits better with the threes, to be fair,
Yeah. I'm gonna actually just live do that. Let's see if
but
anybody
even
notices.
Chansey or something, right?
Yeah, no,
Or
there
a
are Pokemon
Lolamola.
in there. Like, I didn't want to highlight it super in there because it might also belong in 3, but it's fine. This is bonus value for the podcast listeners. Metatite is
Yeah.
in 2 points. Like that's a pretty decent Pokemon, actually.
It's the things that maybe it's not going to clean up your type chart. It might even make your type chart look worse, right? But if you have a solid core of like 8 mons, then you can kind of just this is my opinion at least. Then you can just kind of try to plug in pieces that
Yeah,
maybe they'll come once or twice.
yeah.
I feel like that's a pretty strong drafting
Well,
strategy. I don't know.
it's also like, um, I wouldn't draft solely for the type chart, but one of the things you used to be able to do was like, oh, I don't have a fire type yet. I probably want
Mhm.
one. And that was like an actual way to get value out of the low tier because like maybe you'll bring okay in early seasons like low tier fire types were like Rapidash. In later
Mhm.
seasons they were not Rapidash. Rapidash would be a little higher. When we shift from tier to points, but whatever. Um, Now that's not quite as important because you just really need something that has like ideally fire coverage, but if they don't, like even that could be fine because like you probably would rather I don't know, what's a random good Pokemon? Golden Go. Does it have a fire move? Let's see.
No,
No. Would you rather Fire Terra Terra Blast Golden Go if you need a fire move or like have a
have a
Growlithe?
Growlithe, right? Yeah, I like that we said Growlithe at the same time too. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, yeah, Terra definitely changes that. Like, you don't
Yeah.
have to have, you know, uh, you don't necessarily have to have that fire type. Like,
Yeah.
it's still probably important.
Yeah,
But
it's I mean it's still nice to get those mons that have like premium types and use them with low
I
tiers, but
think
it's not
ground is a big one though.
yeah,
Like before, and I didn't realize this until much later, but like having
the
a ground
grounds are
type is
so
really
good.
good in draft. But like Baxcalibur was a ground type for me, right? Like
Yeah.
Haxorus is a ground type for a lot of people. So like Terra changes that where you don't necessarily have to. It's nice to have one, and if
Oh,
you
I
can
think
get
it's
one
the
of the good
opposite
ones,
actually.
great.
I think it's the
You
opposite
think?
actually. With grounds specifically, there's so few of them. It was
There
so
is.
annoying to get a ground type last season. So like yes,
Yeah.
if you have Baxcalibur, like that's so good at being a ground type that it's a little different. Um, but like, it's so hard to get a good ground type, and then you're kind of asking to just get like T-bolted or discharged. Like, it's not super fun. Um, so I think like type immunities are nice to have still.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think all typings are actually good to have still. Like I wouldn't say that I had like Forsaken typing in the first what was that season 8, the first season of Gen 9. The numbers always confuse me because we just had season 9 in Gen 9. It jumbles everything up around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in that in the early first season of Gen 9, I was like kind of the typing stuff doesn't matter as much as it used to. Fake out doesn't matter anymore because of the new item. I think all these things still matter. Like there are just more exceptions to them. Like you still want, like you said, you still want a fire type. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the point I was making is just like, and Growlithe can add value because it's a intimidate Pokemon, but like the you're never going to bring a Growlithe simply because it's a fire type. Like simply because you need fire type stab.
Right.
That's never going to happen anymore because you just will use something else. Um, but that doesn't mean that the typing isn't important. And I think defensively, it's actually more important than offensively still, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you can manufacture coverage in a matchup, but you cannot, like you can make one Pokemon a ground type, but if everything else is electric weak, your ground type's not stopping that. Put it that way.
True.
Um, I don't know. I'm just kind of just rambling now. Um,
Ready to
I'm
wrap this
excited for the
up?
draft. Yeah.
Me too. I think everybody is.
Do we have any? Do we have anything to say about the draft or next season, Daddy? We want to leave the people with.
Um, Man, I don't know how the draft is going to go this time. Like last season,
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was going to be a top heavy draft, and it was. I don't know about this one, man. It's going to be wild. I think we're going to get a mix of teams again, which I think is going to be interesting. I'm interested to see how it plays out. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think we're going to have some people that prioritize spending all their points on 5, 6 bonds. And we're going to have people that are just going to target the middle of the board, maybe with one like centerpiece. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out throughout the
I
course of the season. I already know what kind of draft plan I'm having.
I haven't started fully planning out my draft yet, but I think based off the board, I think the like not meta, but I think the default sort of style is going to be top heavy, but pick up value in the bottom tiers because it's actually there now. Like you can still
Yeah,
go top heavy, but then be the first to jump into the 2 point tier and grab, I don't know, something good. Like there are actually usable Pokemon in the 2 point tier now.
yeah. I'm looking at the 4 point tier, and it looks
Oh yeah,
like
there's
it
stuff in
looks
there. There's
nice.
like
There's some
actual stuff in
stuff
there.
in there. Yeah,
But I
some
mean,
stuff
like
that you
two
can
point
legitimately
two
bring to
point
one or
tier,
two games.
like Dragonair is like a Pokemon. Dracolica is a
Yeah,
Pokemon. Like they're not great, but they're Pokemon.
yeah. I mean, there's definitely some like Ghastly, right? Got Mons that you can
Uh,
bring it,
I don't know
right? You can
Ghastly.
bring
I
them
don't know
once.
Ghastly.
I mean,
Haunt
what Destiny?
Haunter I
It
bumped back
has
up.
moves.
Haunter I bumped back up, but 7 point Haunter I would still way prefer to 2 point Ghastly. Oh,
Sure,
Haunter is so good.
but 5 points is the difference between Clawitzer and uh Gudra. You know, like it's a pretty big
I
jump.
would rather have Cloudster and Haunter than
Maybe I'm
Ghastly and
just
Gudra.
looking at the list right now, trying to pick two. I'm like, where's the water type? Oh, Dondozo, right? The difference
I would
between
rather
Clawitzer
have
and Dondozo.
Cloudster and I would rather have Cloudster and
That's
Haunter than
no
Dondozo.
shot, dude. No way. Well, maybe that's the difference in strategies. We'll see how it
Hunter
goes.
is Hunter is so good. You're
It
underrating
is. I
Hunter so
agree.
much.
I
All right.
agree.
My last question before we leave is: do
Hey.
you have a transfer Pokemon, new Pokemon in the middle-ish range? Doesn't need to be like
Mhm.
super mid-ish, but a middle-ish range new Pokemon that's gonna take names, kick ass this season.
Oh, baby.
Or are you not trying to spoil?
Well, I have a couple that I don't want to share,
Do you
but
have one that you can
I think
share?
I think I think a mon that I've drafted in a past format that I think is
Mhm.
going to be pretty solid. I think it's gonna take. I don't think it's gonna be on the logo or anything, but I definitely think it's gonna win a few matches. Is what's it called? Typhlosion,
Yes, that's a good Pokemon.
right? So like 10 points for a pretty fast eruption. Like I think this thing, it's just gonna 8-0 somebody. You know, ten
It
points is
will
nothing.
possibly 8-0 someone. Charizard
Yeah,
Charizard
yeah.
in 11 points is probably more likely to 8-0 stuff.
Um, I don't know, man. Like,
But it's
do
an
you remember?
interesting trade-off, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, Charizard has
Like
more stuff,
it's
I'd
you,
say.
you have Typhlosion Hisui in 12, which gets Frisk, it gets a stronger eruption. Charizard in 11, Typhlosion in 10. Like there are actual decisions to be made based on value here.
Yeah, between those three, right?
Yeah.
They all fill kind of a similar role, but in different ways, right?
Yeah.
Typhlosion is objectively the worst, which I think, we did the right thing with
Yeah, I
doing
think the
that. But
ranking
it's
is
still,
the ranking in a vacuum I think is definitely accurate.
yeah.
Um and then I think in team context, like I don't know that uh base Typhlosion is ever like so its advantage over Typhlosion Hisui is the speed, but it only gets up to
Hmm.
100 speed instead of 95.
Yeah, it's
Um,
barely anything.
and I guess it has Flash Fire instead of Frisk, but like in most, so I was gonna say it depends on team context, which you might actually prefer. I would say in basically any team context, you would prefer Typhlosion Hisui to Typhlosion. I guess if you really don't want the ghost typing, you would prefer Typhlosion, but
Or
um,
maybe if you have something like Rillaboom, like you turning
yeah, you
into
want the
Flash
Flash
Fire,
Fire.
right? Like
Yeah,
that would be nice too. So yeah, there's always trade-offs, which is
yeah.
what makes this
And
interesting.
I think the granularity of the points, and I was talking a lot with Jordan, and I think we're both talking about how there's definitely more to exploit on this tier list than like maybe last season. Like there's someone people will get steals on this list, and we're gonna be like, wow, that was way under tiered.
Yeah, there always is going
I
to be,
think
right?
I think more so than last season, frankly.
Hmm.
But I think that's fine. I think that's maybe where we want to be. I think if someone, especially in the middle tiers, like if someone wants to show us that Typhlosion is worth more than 10 points, let them show us. Like that will be, you know, fun. Also, it's not
Yeah,
going to be
I,
more
I
than 12.
the last thing I'll say about it is I think Jace said it a few seasons ago, where like
Hmm.
if something hasn't proved itself yet, let's move it down, and then once it does, then we can move it back up, right? If we
Yeah,
need
I think
to.
it's
I
fair.
think that's
Yeah.
the way to do it, and I think that's what we're trying to do here, and it's
Yeah.
it's definitely going
And
to
I
make
think,
for a fun draft.
yeah, I think we also, or personally, I think at some point I set aside making like the most perfect valuation of every Pokemon in favor of trying to make the tier list that would lend itself to the most fun drafts.
Yeah, I
Within
think you.
reason. Like, not everything's gonna be 1 point. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Uh,
you and the other guys that put in a lot of work on this. I think you did a nice job. It's everybody's really excited for the draft, so
yeah,
something's right, right?
yeah. And then I stalled a lot, but I have two. Um,
Hmm.
would you prefer my 8 or 9 point hot take?
Let's hear the eight. There's a lot of Mons in eight
Okay.
that I was looking at.
Um, so there are a couple of well, a lot of the starters I was looking at are in very interesting places. Decidueye is so like I don't think I'm
Yeah.
gonna draft it even, uh, but it's just in such an interesting spot right now. Um, you know, physical
Yeah.
special split, Spirit Shackle is really good. Um, Spirit Shackle is so good. Um, yeah, a lot of coverage, good flying moves, Tailwind. Uh, not well. It has like weird bulk. It's like decently specially bulky and like not super physically bulky, but you can. There's enough that you can invest and live stuff. Um, Knockoff. It's a someone might draft it at 8 points and it might just literally come like 2 weeks and not be good. But I don't know. It seems cool.
It seems like a Mon that could come 2 weeks and be good, though. I agree with that. I
Or
think
like,
that's
well, I think it could
and
be
that's
like
what you want out of an eight
I
pointer,
think
right?
it
It
could
comes
come
two or
like
three
four
times.
weeks and be good. But I think it could
You
also
think?
come. I think it could also come 2 weeks and be terrible.
Yeah, I guess like that. What, like maybe 7 to 10 point range? That's kind of what you want. You want it like
Well,
it
it
could either be
depends, right?
something that just comes a couple times, or it's something that if it fits your team right, it could come a lot more often.
Yeah,
So
Lilligan, Lilligan.
yeah.
But you're already paying for the Torkoal, so I feel like the Lilligant price is fair. Um,
Or the tornadoes, so maybe something else. I don't know.
nah, I don't think Lilligant. Maybe at 9, like if it was 11, you wouldn't get it without Torkoal. Maybe at 9 you could get it with
Yeah, maybe, but
Tortoise. I
probably not. No, I
probably
agree.
wouldn't. Um, yeah,
All
but
right.
interesting stuff here. Goodbye, everyone.